Hello everyone, this is Muhammad Wasim Khan, an instructor for your Total Quality Management course. In the previous lecture, we have discussed the Ishikawa 7 basic tools of quality, and in today's lecture, we will discuss the new 7 tools of quality. In addition to the basic 7 tools of quality, there is another set of tools that focuses on group processes and decision making. These are the new tools for management. The new 7 tools were developed as a result of a research effort by a committee of the Japanese Society for Quality Control Technique Development. The following are the 7 new tools for improvement of quality. The first one is Affinity Diagram. Then we have the tree diagram, the Interrelationship Digraph, Process Decision Program Chart, Activity Network Diagram, Matrix Diagram, and the last one is Prioritization Grid. Goal QPC recommends that the N7 tools can be used in a cycle of activity in which one tool provides input to another tool. So as you can see here that affinity diagram and interrelationship diagram can be used as an input for tree diagram or system flows. And this tree diagram can be used as an input for prioritization matrices, and then prioritization matrix can be used as input for the matrix diagram. And matrix diagram can be the input for a PDPC or activity network diagram. So let's start with the first one. The first one is affinity diagram. When we are solving a problem, it is often useful to first surface all the issues associated with the problem. A tool to do this is the affinity diagram, which helps a group coverage on a set number of themes or ideas that can be addressed later. An affinity diagram creates a hierarchy of ideas on a large surface. In figure 10.22, you can see a sample of the affinity diagram. This affinity diagram consists of the main issue or problem here, which is divided into different sub-issues. And these sub-issues are actually a group of a number of ideas that were presented by the team members. So how this affinity diagram is constructed? This affinity diagram is constructed as a result of some steps. Let's discuss those steps first. The first step is to identify the problem to be tested. Create a clear or concise statement of the issues that is understood by everyone. So the first step is that you have to identify the main problem and state the problem very clearly so that everyone can understand it easily. The second one is you should provide the team members with a card or sticky notes and pen. Then each of the team member have to write a main idea in few words on each sticky note. After that, allow only 10 minutes for this writing activity, and then place the written cards on a flat surface. The flat surface can be a table or ground or floor. Then you have to lay out the finished cards so that all participants can see and have access to all the cards. So you have to place the cards in such a way so that every participant or team member can see each card. Let everyone on the team work to move the cards into groups with a similar theme. So the team members will, look into the cards, and then they will group the cards based on the idea or theme. So the cards would be grouped into that particular group that will have the similar idea. If you disagree with someone else's placement of a note card, say nothing but move it. You reach consensus when all of the cards are in groups and the team members have stopped moving the cards. So when all the cards are in different groups, that means that in every group, if for example, if a group have 5 cards, that means that these 5 cards have a similar theme or idea. Okay, so once consensus has been reached concerning placement of the cards, you can create a header card. Okay, and that header card can be what? That header card can be a sub issue. So the header card can be a sub issue. Okay, now draw a finished affinity diagram and provide a working copy for all participants. So these were some of the steps that we can use for if you want to, construct an affinity diagram. So this is an example of affinity diagram. Uh, the main problem here is issues with implementing the sales reference tools. And this main problem or issue is divided into sub-issues or sub-problems like evaluation, support, training, current information, buy-in, size, features, and timings. And each of the group have similar ideas. Okay, mean this for example, evaluation has 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 ideas, and all of these 7 ideas have a similar theme. Okay, so this was the affinity diagram. Now let's discuss the interrelationship digraph. After completing the affinity diagram, it might be useful to understand the causal relationships between the different issues that surfaced. Also, it is helpful to identify the most important issues to be focused on in pursuing the solution to a problem. A finished interrelationship diagram or digraph is shown here in figure 10.24. This interrelationship digraph shows the relationship between different issues. So these are actually different issues, and this interrelationship digraph shows the relationship between these different issues. We will address how to develop this digraph, but note that the shaded boxes, um, are major issues that we need to address in developing improvement strategies. So the major issues that we need to address here are poor needs definition and many simultaneous jobs. So how to construct the interrelationship diagram? For that, we have to follow some steps. The first step is to construct an affinity diagram. As in the previous slides we have discussed, that the 7 basic tools, the main point in 7 basic tool is that one or a tool can be an input for another tool. So here for interrelationship diagram, the digraph, the affinity diagram is an input. So the first step is to construct an affinity diagram to identify the issue or sub-issues relating to the problem. After you have done this, place the cards with related issues in columns with gaps between the cards. It is helpful to use sticky notes, as I mentioned earlier, on a large piece of flip chart paper. The second step is now to create the digraph by examining the cards one by one, asking what other issues on this digraph are caused or influenced by this issue. As team members identify issues that are related, draw a one-way arrow from the first issue, that is the cause, to the second issue, the one influenced by the cause. Do this until all the issues have been discussed. So in the second step, what we need to do is to place the cards and examine the cards, and we will have to ask the question that which card is a cause for another card. Okay, and we will, and based on that, we have to draw an arrows which will leave the issue, first issue, and will enter into another issue. Okay, so this was the second step. In third step, what we need to do is, after reviewing the arrows and making needed revisions, count the number of arrows pointing to each node and write the numbers on the nodes. Okay, here we will have to count the number of arrows that are leaving from different issues and entering into a particular issue. Okay, identify the cards with the most arrows as the key factors. So those cards that are receiving more arrows from other cards are actually the key factors. Okay, so those that particular card that is receiving most of the arrows from other card is a key factor and the prominent factor. So there should not be more than 5 to 10 key factors. Boxes with the most outgoing arrows tend to be the root causes. Boxes with incoming arrows are the performance indicators. And in the fifth step, what we need to do is to draw a double box around the key factors and brainstorm ways to address these issues. Okay, so that's how we have developed the interrelationship digraph. Now let's talk about another one tool, and that tool is a tree diagram. The tree diagram is useful to identify the steps needed to address the given problem. As in the figure 10.26 we have presented here on slide number 16, a tree diagram is very similar to a work breakdown structure used in planning projects. So I hope you know about the work breakdown structure. But if you don't know, no problem. We will discuss it in the next coming lectures. But let me give you an idea of the work breakdown structure of a project. In work breakdown structure of a project, what we need to do is to write the project name here at the top and divide that project into different major tasks or work packages. Okay, so we have to divide the project into different major tasks or work packages. So the main problem, the project name can be used here. Okay, and the work packages or the major tasks can be we can write those major tasks here in sub-issues boxes. Now, those major boxes are further divided into minor tasks or minor work packages. And those minor tasks can be further divided into different activities. So that's how we can create a work breakdown structure. So the work breakdown structure of a project is similar to the tree diagram. Let's discuss the steps that can be used for constructing a tree diagram. The first one is to assemble the header cards from the affinity diagram. From these cards, choose the header card that represent the most important issue. Once the goal statement has been determined, ask, what are the steps required to resolve or achieve this major objective or goal? The third step is once the major tasks have been identified, once we identify the major task, move to the next level under each task and ask for the second tasks. What are the steps required to resolve or achieve this goal or objective? And the fourth and last step is to continue doing this for successive levels until you have exhausted your ideas for steps. So that's how we can construct the tree diagram. The next and important one is the prioritization grid. Prioritization grid is used to make decisions based on multiple criteria. For example, in choosing a quality, we might have a variety of alternative options. Also, the decision criteria vary as to how to choose possible desired outcomes. When there are multiple alternatives and multiple criteria, a prioritization grid is good method to inform your decision making without resorting to more sophisticated analysis. Following are the steps required to make a prioritization grid. The first step, okay, before discussing the first step, I would like to discuss some other points with you as well. Why we need prioritization tool? Okay, in most of the problems, if you want to solve different problems, then we can have different criteria and alternative. For example, we have 5 alternatives, and we need to choose or select one of those 5 alternatives. Then we should use a certain a method or tool or technique in order to prioritize those different alternatives based on a particular methodology, and the one which has the higher value will be the most critical alternative, and we will choose or select that particular alternative. So actually we use this tool in order to select or choose one of many. Okay, so let's discuss the steps that are required to make a prioritization grid. The first is to determine your goal. What is your goal? What is your objective? Then you should determine your alternative and criteria by which a decision is to be made. Place the selection criteria in order from most important to least important. This is actually a sorting type of thing that you have to place the criteria in order from most important to the least important. Okay, in third step, what we need to do is to apply a percentage weight to each of the criteria for each option. Okay, so you have to add a percentage weight. That means that you should assign a weight to each criteria in points. And though these points, when you add these points, so these points should not be greater than 1. The sum of these all of these points should be equal to 1. Okay, so apply a weight to each criteria such that all the weights add up to 1. For example, a criteria A has a weight 0.40, B has a weight 0.30, criteria 3 is equal to 0.25, and criteria D has a weight 0.05. So 0.40 plus 0.30, that means that is equal to 0.70, plus 0.25 means 0.95 plus 0.05. So 0.95 plus 0.05 is equal to 1. Okay, so all of these, the weights of all of these criteria is equal to 1. Sum the individual rating for each criterion to come to an overall ranking, and divide by the number of individuals to find an average ranking. So okay, let's finish these tip, and then I'll discuss some other points regarding the prioritization grid. Rank order each alternative with respect to the criteria, and average the rankings and apply a completed ranking. Multiply the criteria weight by it associated criterion rank for each criterion in the matrix. Notice that in this case a ranking of 4 is best and 1 is worst. The result in each cell of the matrix is called an importance score. Sum the importance scores for each alternative and rank order the alternatives according to the importance. Okay, let me tell you something about the prioritization grid as well. Sometimes we need to take decisions, and we can have a number of alternatives and criteria, and based on those criteria we have to select one of the alternatives. So we can use different methodologies like the decision making, multi-criteria decision making techniques. Okay, so these are the different tools that we can use for like a fuzzy Weicker, D-metal, fuzzy topsis, HP, ANP. So these are the different techniques that we can use for taking decisions, and selecting one of the alternatives. Okay, I have a homework for you. So you have to go to and open the book Managing Quality, written by Thomas Foster, and in chapter number 10 you will have to go to example 10.9. This is actually a solved example. Okay, so it's a solved example, and you have to first understand the question of an example, and then you should use these tips of prioritization grid, and um, uh, look into the answer of an example. Okay, so you should understand that particular example. This is your homework. Okay, let's talk about a matrix diagram now. The matrix diagram is similar in concept to the quality function deployment in its use of symbols, its layout, and its application. In the previous lectures, we have discussed the quality function deployment, or the house of quality, if you remember. So the matrix diagram is similar to that particular concept because the matrix diagram is one of the N7 new 7 tools. We mention it here. However, the major, the prior presentation of the quality function deployment is much more complete. So we will keep this short here. Like the other N7 tools, the matrix diagram is a brainstorming tool that can be used in a group to show the relationship between ideas or issues. Matrix diagrams are simple to use and can be used in 2, 3, or 4 dimensions. Okay, so this is actually a matrix diagram. Okay, first we need to go to the steps of matrix diagram, and then we will come back to this particular sample of matrix diagram. First step is to determine the number of issues or dimensions to be used in the matrix. So we have to determine the number of issues or dimensions. So issue or dimension are the same thing here. Okay, choose the appropriate matrix. Okay, you will have to choose the appropriate matrix or weights and place the appropriate symbols in the matrix. So this is actually a matrix, and here we have what the resources needed. For example, the main title is that reducing the number of billing errors. So how can we reduce the number of billing errors? We can consider two things, like the resources needed and the options we have. So the resources can be are mentioned here in the first column, like the capital investment, staff time, training time, space, and equipment availability. And the options we have are presented here in a row, like improve database, improve definition, specify costs, listen options, revise pricing, and simplify process. And you can see here in a legend that these double circles represent high, which has a weight of 9. Okay, this single circle represent medium and its weight is 3, and the triangle represent low and its weight is 1. Okay, so I'll discuss one or two of these options and resources needed, and then we will move forward toward the next tool. Okay, the capital investment. This single circle in this box mean that the capital investment is for the improved database is low. Okay, but for staff time, the staff time is very important for improving the database, or improving database need more time of the staff. Okay, so this is the way you can interpret. You can construct and interpret this matrix diagram. At the end, you in this last column, you can add up to these different values. For example, this double circle here, its value is 9. 9 plus the single circle value is 3. So 9 plus 3 is 12. So the total is 12. Okay. So that's how you can sum up all of the legends, and you can get the total sum. Now let's talk about the process decision program chart. A process decision program chart is a tool to help brainstorm possible contingencies or problems associated with the implementation of some program or improvement. In this figure 10.30, this figure shows such a chart in tree form. The outline form is not presented here. So this is actually the process decision program chart, and it is like a tree chart. um, um, so let me discuss some tips of how to construct the process decision program chart, and then we will come back towards this figure. Okay, first step is in developing the tree diagram, place the first level boxes in sequential order. First level box means the boxes in the first column. So you can see here the boxes in the first column. Okay. Moving to the second level, list implementation details at a fairly high level. Try to be all inclusive at a macro level. Okay, so you can see it here. Okay, at the third level, these are the different levels. These are the different levels. These are the different levels. Okay, these are the different levels. You can see my cursor or mouse cursor. Okay, so yeah, these are the different levels. First, second, third, these are the different levels in process decision program chart. Okay, at the third level, ask the question, what unexpected things could happen in this implementation, or what could go awry at this stage? Okay, and at the fourth level, brainstorm possible countermeasures to the problems identified at the third level. Okay, now what you need to do at the end is evaluate the countermeasures for feasibility and mark those who are feasible with an O, mark those who are feasible with an O, and uh, mark those who are not feasible with an X or cross. Okay, so that's how we can construct the process decision program chart. Okay, so you have to go toward the book that I have presented to you in the previous slides, written by Thomas, and you will have to go through the examples within that particular book in chapter number 12. Okay, so you will this will become more easy for you. Okay. Okay, the next one is activity network diagram. Activity network diagram is one of the most important diagrams, and an activity diagram is also known as a CPM, that is the critical path method, and PERD, that is a program evaluation and review technique diagram. Okay, I have sorry, it is repeated here. It is critical path. Critical path mean actually the longest path in time from beginning to an end of the project or diagram, and is used in controlling project. So we are not going to discuss it here in details, because we will discuss it in the chapter number 11 in the coming lectures, but I would like to give you an idea of the network diagram. Actually, a network diagram is used for different projects. As you know that project have some initial starting and ending times or duration. And a project actually create the new products or services or results within a particular time. Okay, so from the start to an end, we have to estimate the uh, cost and times for different activities within a particular project, because a project is actually the sum of different activities. Okay, it is a combination of different activities, and each activity have certain duration and cost. Okay, so we have to assign the durations and cost to each activity. And then we will have to draw a network diagram. Network diagram actually tells us that which activity is performed first, and which activity can be performed second, and which activity will perform third, and so on. And it actually showed the relationship between different activities. So network diagram also show the relationship between different activities. Okay, and then we can use the PERT, that is Program Evaluation and Review Technique, or the CPM, or the critical path method, in order to identify the longest path of within that particular project. Because when we draw a network diagram, we will see that there can be 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 paths based on the length of the project, but based on the size of the project. But we will have to identify the critical path, and critical path is the path that is longest in time from beginning to end of a project. So okay, this was actually an idea I was trying to give you here, but inshallah we will discuss it in the coming lecture, in lecture number 11, chapter number 11. Okay, for more videos regarding any of the subject, you can visit my YouTube channel. Okay, Learn with Wasim, my Facebook channel or page, Learn with Wasim, or you can ask me any question through my email, learnwithwasim@gmail.com. So that was an end of this lecture. Um, Inshallah, we will discuss some other important topics in the coming lecture. Till then, thank you. Bye bye.